Testing, testing. Can you hear us? Let us know.
Well, as long as you can hear me. Get out your glow sticks. It's time for Trinity Radio with this new trance music that Braxton dug up that needs to go away after this episode. I'm Jonathan Pritchett, and along with me is...
Braxton Hunter.
There you go. And I don't like that intro music as much as the other one, but that's okay. Today we're going to talk about 7 resources that you should know about.
Yeah. So somebody else did one of these. Whitman. I need to know the name of the channel, but if he's here, he can tell us. And go ahead and plug your channel, Whitman, if you're here. But he's done a couple of those that have us in it. Now, Whitman, don't get upset, and any other of our friends don't get upset if you're not in this list. We are focusing this list on stuff related to specifically Bible, theology, and apologetics. So if your channel does other stuff, we think that's awesome, and we watch it, but it might not have made this list for that reason.
And if your channel does Bible and theology and other stuff, and you're not on this list, it's because we don't think you're as good as these people.
That's not true. That's not true. And I'll tell you why.
It's totally true, because I've seen the list and other Trinity.
No, listen, because here is Susan Morales. You know how we feel about Susan Morales, and she's not on the list, but that's not because she won't be on future lists.
Everyone knows I don't pick the stuff. I just sit here and talk. And the reason why, Susan, I'm sorry. I would have put you on the list.
Hey, guess what? You're on the list. Everyone, go check out Susan's channel. Look, the list is not made yet. The list isn't on the description yet. The list isn't, none of the people are on the thumbnail. It's just you and me. So I'm glad Susan's here to find out that she's on the list.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, her and Aaron Brown are, Aaron Brown? He's a friend of ours, right? Mm-hmm. Susan and Aaron are both very, very talented singers. It's obvious to everyone that Susan's talented, but I did not know that Aaron was a singer. Mm. And I went to his YouTube channel and listened to him sing several songs, one of which was from Frozen, by the way. And it was so good that I was surprised and laughing because he was singing that song.
Oh, Daniel Apologetics, you made the list. Glad you're here, Daniel Apologetics. He deserves to make the list if he got to 1,000 YouTube subscribers in like a month. But anyway, what list? Please define what it is you are giving us. Okay, so as Pritchett kind of mentioned, we are today talking about 7 internet resources, not exclusively YouTube, but 7 internet resources that are Christian resources that we think are good for you, that we think you should make a part of your everyday experience, or at least every week experience. And this is especially going to be appropriate if you are into theology and apologetics.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not the best or our favorites. I was just teasing. It's not like personal favorites, and it's not like these are the channels we think are the best. These are important channels that you should know about and follow. Is that fair?
That's fair. And here, Black Tuesday Film says, would you recommend young Christians who have only watched YouTube videos to begin engaging with atheist material, or should they study Christian philosophy first?
No, you should read all of it.
Well, I'm going to actually give some materials today. We're going to present some materials that you could get online, not necessarily just YouTube, but that you could get online that I think would help. But yeah, before you really start engaging, I think one of the big problems, and I'll just go ahead and have a soapbox moment here, and this could upset some people, but look, I think there's nothing wrong with younger apologists going ahead and getting into some debates and arguing with other people, and not in a mean-spirited way, but arguing in the sense of making arguments and interacting. But here's the thing. Back in the day, before YouTube, when all you had was debates between PhD academics against other PhD academics, our guys always won, like almost all the time. And now our guys don't always win. Now there's a good and a bad to that. It helps them find the mistakes in their arguments. Number two, you get more, you get a spread of different kinds of people arguing that you wouldn't have normally had. And there's something beneficial about people outside of the institution adding their voice to things. But I do think that it's a bad idea for people who only have their education in this field from YouTube, or almost completely from YouTube. Mm-hmm. Like, don't tell me you read 2 books and that's, read some books.
That's my soapbox. Would you recommend young Christians who have only watched YouTube videos to begin engaging? I would recommend that they first be chastised for only watching YouTube videos to get, if that's their steady diet of information, nonsense. I mean, we're seminary professors. Read books, okay? Tell them to get off YouTube and actually read thick books, Christians, by atheists, whoever. They need to read books. If you're just getting your information third hand from some YouTube guy, bad idea.
Yeah, so Slam RN says it helps to know the Bible inside and out first. I'm glad you mentioned that, Slam RN, because the first place we're going to go, surprisingly, is not a strictly apologetics-based resource, but one based on the Bible. But we're not there yet. Now, secondly, this is our Friday afternoon live stream, and it's a little more kicked back, so we interact more with the audience directly than, say, when we're doing a response video or something. So if we don't even get through all this, it's not the end of the world. Now, I want to say another thing here. So
I see something about that.
So Trinity Radio says, what do you mean, that the truth can lose? No, I don't mean that the truth can lose.
Yeah, a debater can. The truth doesn't lose. A debater can lose a debate in a rhetorical match. That's and it happens to Christians too. So it's not that debates. It's not about who's right or wrong so much as it's about who can put on a better show. I'm sorry to say, yes, we want to think that they're highbrow academic dialogues, and to some extent they can be, but they're really basically pro wrestling for geeks. And so it's really more about I'd say more. It's about the content, but it's more about showmanship.
Not that it should be, but that's what it tends
That's
to
what
be.
it is. That's why people want to. I mean, what's his name? Bart Ehrman gets this right. Who wants to see me get creamed is what he says in a room in front of Christians. And you know what? I mean, Christians, yeah, you do want to see him creamed.
I want to see.
But guess what? Atheists want to see him cream the Christians, and that's why I'm kind of sour on the whole debate thing. The debates are, number one, they're a dime a dozen these days. I mean, you can see a debate every two times a week.
So bottom line is, you can't let the fact that the Bible exists and obviously is ultimate truth and the power of the Spirit make up for being lazy in learning. You honor the discipline of Christian apologetics. You honor the ministry that God may have given you by not being lazy with it. And so that's an important thing. So in that regard, what you want to say about this, you could say about preaching too. It's sort of a similar thing here. He says, define apologetics. Well, how do I define apologetics? Apologetics is a defense. And when it's Christian apologetics, it's the defense of the Christian faith. And the Bible more exhibits apologetics than gives us a dissertation on what the discipline is. It exhibits it in the life of Jesus, but in a very specific way, obviously, because he performed miracles and things like that. He also pointed back to Old Testament scripture and how it was being fulfilled. Paul exhibited apologetics by getting up and giving a reasoned case for God's existence and then the resurrection. So we see examples of apologetics springing forth from scripture. And then we try to follow those examples. But a given Christian apology, are you really telling me you don't think? I mean, I don't think you would say that that no apologist seems to do better than others. Clearly, they do, right, Pritchett? And that is because
some people are just bad at it.
Yeah,
and lose. I've seen Christians lose debates.
Not everyone's good at preaching. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Some were called, some were sent. Some of these guys should have never went.
Right.
All right,
wow, that's a Southern Baptist thing.
That's a Southern Baptist
funny.
Thing.
But yeah, that's true. I've heard. I mean, people are like, "Well, you can always get one good thing that the Lord put in every." No, it's not true. There are some terrible.
Actually,
preachers.
I do think so.
Yeah, I don't. I think. Yeah, I can agree with every word that he said in the Bible, and the rest of what he said put me to sleep.
But I got to work. I got to work extra hard. Yeah. I got to work extra hard as a listener and as a student of the Bible to hear what this guy's saying, hear what's on his heart, and get. As long as it's not like a turncoat, if he's a legit man of God, I think I can get something
Yeah,
out
I mean,
of it.
if he just read the Bible, it'd be an improvement because on his preaching. Because I agree with every word of Scripture. But then if he just proceeds to go for 35 minutes of butchering the text, or he does a good job, but he's just boring. One of the biggest sins committed in the pulpit is being boring, in my opinion. We've talked about it on other podcasts. Now, what I mean by that is I don't mean be funny or be a clown or be entertaining, but I
G-Man,
mean intellectually stimulating. But boring
yeah,
sermons are the worst.
I
It
agree.
makes people
Don't be
not
boring.
interested. Yeah, don't be a
You
boring
got 1
preacher.
minute when you get in that pulpit, preachers. 1 minute to capture the attention of your audience. If you think that doesn't sound pious, listen, a sermon that is not enjoyable or engaging in some sense is not going to be listened to.
Right.
May make you feel good about it, and you can feel like you really honored the
Yeah,
Bible.
and don't pat yourself on the back. Well, I preached the truth. Yeah, but nobody heard it, so you might as well have stayed home and preached to yourself in the mirror.
So, getting off to a good start, G-Man says, as an apologist, do you feel the need to defend everything the Bible does? Is there not a single story that you are willing to attack? I don't quite know what you mean. You might want to restate that. I don't necessarily. Okay, so there are general apologists, right? Like Frank Turek is a generalist, a kind of apologist. Like he's an all-purpose apologist, and he's pretty good at being an all-purpose apologist. Mike Licona is not an all-purpose apologist, and is happy to tell you so. His thing is the Gospels. His thing is the resurrection, and that's true of other apologists. They have their specific area. And they feel, and God has gifted people that way. That He's gifted us with specialists when it comes to medicine, and He's gifted us with specialists when it comes to the Word of God. Now, I would say that I think every Christian should know some basic apologetics principles, so that in that sense they can be an all-purpose apologist. But no, I think it could actually be unwise for a given person who doesn't know the answers, doesn't know much about a particular field, like perhaps things that have to do with science, to go running in there. What was that video game where the guy went running in, Leroy Jenkins, like running in there Leroy Jenkins style, trying to defeat your enemy when you don't know the answers. Go find the answers.
Yeah, let me answer the actual question in the post.
Don't do that. Don't do that to me.
My answer is no. There's no story in the Bible that I'm willing to attack. Are there stories that I like better than others? Yes. Are there stories that I don't understand? Yes. Are there stories that were I not a Christian, I would be uneasy with? Sure. But as a Christian, I know that God is a lot smarter than me, and God knew what He was doing when He inspired His Holy Scripture. So my job is faith-seeking understanding. So no, I'm not going to attack the Bible. I'm just going to understand my limitations, and if I have problems with anything in Scripture, that problem is with me. But Scripture tells us within itself what parts of, in a narrative, in a story, we're supposed to condemn along with those in the narrative that condemn it. So, I mean, we condemn what the Bible condemns, and we uphold it and affirm what the Bible affirms. So I'm not going to attack the Bible.
Yeah. So, we're not attacking the Bible. That was the question. I thought I was trying to read between the lines of the question. So maybe I shouldn't do that.
Just read the question.
Okay. We're going to come back to questions in a minute, but let's go ahead and, I didn't expect to hear Leroy Jenkins on Trinity Radio. Here's a little thing for the train spotters. In the first video that I ever did, where I took on like I answered like 15 atheists at once, I put in the description Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah, if you like that, go watch my debate that I did alongside Leighton Flowers against Sonny Hernandez and Theodore Zachariades. If you watch that debate, you think him saying Leroy Jenkins. Let's see, I got in Friday. I got in Star Wars. I got in all kinds of stuff. I think I'm the only person that made a Friday reference and a Star Wars reference in the same sentence in a formal moderated debate by any theologian in the history of the world. So go check that out because, yeah, we just do that kind of thing every now and then.
Okay, so we'll come back. Let's go ahead and get into
and
a
Brax
little bit of
has still never seen the movie Friday.
So, of course not.
You need to
repent of having seen that film.
What are you talking
So
about?
I'm going to move on to the first person in the list. And now this is Bible here. And I hope to have this person on the show in the not so distant future. He's a personal friend of ours. And so here it is. This is Steve Gregg. Now,
right.
I'm
First of all,
hoping
Ecclesiastes-
that you all are able to still hear us, because we're not going to let you hear Steve Gregg. We're just going to talk over these clips and tell you about him. So Steve Gregg is the guy on the left with the microphone. Now he's the guy on the right standing there. And Steve Gregg came out of the Calvary Chapel movement. That was the same movement that I think Mike Winger's church is somewhat affiliated with or was or something with Calvary Chapel. And Steve Gregg has an amazing personal story, by the way.
Yeah.
He got married, and he was teaching Bible from the time he was in high school. And so he was teaching the Bible in high school, going verse by verse through the whole Bible. And then at a certain point, Steve Gregg married a girl, and I think they had no, they didn't have a child. 6 months after they got married, she died in a car accident. And so he thought, well, I'm not ever going to marry again. He did. And there's a personal story there you can read about on his website that gets even more interesting. But he has always been a Bible teacher and has gone through the entire Bible teaching verse by verse. And you can get it all on his website. This is the key. This is the resource that many of you probably didn't know about. This guy he has some stuff on YouTube, but that's really just where some of his, followers have posted stuff. But he has live public debates on theological issues and at least one with an atheist. He has books that have been traditionally published. One book that most pastors have on their bookshelf is 4 Views of Revelation. He goes through the 4 views. Now, the 4 views are like the futurist view, the historicist view, the partial preterist view, and the idealist view. And he goes through it. Some of you may not even know what that is. Maybe the only view you're aware of is the futurist view, and you thought it was just, well, is it post-millennial, premillennial, all that kind of thing.
Pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib.
I almost said partial millennial. Well, yeah, you could characterize one of them as that. But anyway, the bottom line is he's got a book on that. He's also got a book on 3 views on hell. I think it's called All You Want to Know About Hell.
Yeah.
And just fantastic and wonderful human being. We know him personally. He has a radio show, call-in show every single day. I went through now in his verse by verse. It is a verse by verse, not preaching and not boring teaching, although maybe some people think it was boring. I don't. He goes off on every theological rabbit trail. He goes off on everything that an atheist might say might be a contradiction. So the first place you ought to go if you think that somebody found a serious contradiction is go there in Steve Gregg's verse by verse and see what he has to say about it, because he'll say something about it.
Put a link in the description?
Yeah, I don't have any of the links here because I didn't want to give it away, what the 7 were. But I will after this is over.
It is an amazing resource. If you just need something for daily Bible study, give it an hour. It'll take you forever to get through all of it. It is, every book of the Bible. Now, I will say one thing that I'm particularly proud of. He did the whole book of Obadiah in 20 minutes, I think.
Okay.
And in my course at Trinity, on the Minor Prophets, I spent 2.5 hours on the book of Obadiah, where he spent only 20 minutes in his whole series of the Bible. So I'm particularly proud of that. And I only covered 5 verses, and he covered the whole book. So
that could just mean you were boring.
Well, it was long.
I know you well enough to know you're not boring.
It was long. No, it was awesome.
But Jesus is never boring, as Tatiana says.
That's exactly right. But preachers can be. But Steve Gregg is never boring. You'll learn tons of stuff, and he'll tell you everything, even what he doesn't agree with, and he'll explain why he disagrees with it. But he is thorough, and it is a great resource to make a part of your regular listening diet. If you like to listen to podcasts or whatever, it's not podcasts, it's just lectures, verse by verse Bible study, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and he's also got topical stuff, and he holds a honorary doctorate from Trinity College of the Bible and Theological Seminary, and has taught a couple of courses for us. Charles says that this clip that's on the screen right now is with Pastor Doug Batchelor. They had a debate on
Seventh-day Adventism.
On the seventh day, the Old Testament law and some things like that. Yeah. And that's a good one. You ought to go check that out. So whichever side of that debate you're on, you still check it out.
They had several points where they actually agreed in that debate that I thought was interesting. They both agreed on the question that was asked from the audience: why did Adam and Eve have a belly button? And Steve Gregg answered no.
Steve Gregg took it. It was supposed to be like a joke question. He was like, no. Because Adam and Eve had no mother, and so
he's like deadpan on everything. But he is he also, just as far as him personally, is probably the nicest man I've ever met in my entire life.
And let me tell you something. This is one of my personal heroes. This is one of my personal heroes. I'm telling you, if you want to, maybe you don't care, and you probably shouldn't. But if you care to know who I admire, this guy is got to be in the top 3. And so I just want you to. Pritchett occupies the other 2 spots in the top 3. All right, so
I'm surprised I'm in your top 20.
So there's
it's one thing to be my friend. It's
no,
not
no,
to
no,
admire
no,
me.
no. I admire you in many, many ways.
Okay.
Did you see where I put in the forum the other day? We were doing there was a guy giving his oral defense for us, a student at Trinity, and I'd sent out. I was like, I just cannot believe the knowledge that Jonathan Pritchett has, the ability to talk about. It was on the New Perspective on Paul, and just his awareness on that issue and New Testament stuff far surpasses mine. But I went through all of Steve Gregg's Old Testament. I went all the way up through, I think, Jeremiah, and it took me about 2 years to do that. Then I finished all of the New Testament with him, and I have to say, I already had like a decent, biblical knowledge set that we all can do better. But I got to tell you something. It was one of the most meaningful things in my life that I went through that verse by verse with Steve Gregg. Yeah. And Jonathan Pritchett's wife, too, has done it.
She is a big fan of Steve Gregg.
All right. Now, that's for verse by verse. Are you guys still with us? You guys still having fun out there? Listen, that's for verse by verse. But then sometimes when you've had the verse by verse for a while, you really want to hone in on some specific theological ideas or some specific biblical passages. And who do you want to go for that? You want to go to Mike Winger.
Yeah.
Mike Winger is great at this. And the great thing about Mike Winger is that you can take, so someone like us can enjoy Mike Winger, but also somebody in your church can understand, who's a layperson who doesn't have a lot of knowledge in these things can appreciate Mike, because Mike is really good at taking very difficult to understand issues and making them understandable for the layperson. And so you see, so there's some sermons here. Now, most of you already probably know about Mike, but maybe someone doesn't. I get people asking me all the time, like, who would you endorse? And so I'm giving you a sampling of that. But no, Mike's great. Mike's solid. So I would have him as a part of, I do have him as a part of my regular diet of resources that Christians would.
James Winger, like the 80s hair metal band.
You know what? Praise Jesus here says Mike Winger rocks.
Not as much as Winger.
I had on, Jonathan, move your head, on the little marquee back there that says Trinity Radio. I had Winger rocks on there for when I was on his show, the second time I was on his show. And he kept me in the little box, so you never got to see it. But, he does rock. All right. So that's Mike Winger. Anything else you want to say about Mike Winger here, Jonathan?
He is one of I can't say he is as nice as Steve Gregg, but he is like right under there.
He's more pastoral than Steve Gregg.
Oh, sure. But I mean, Mike will be as nice as Steve when he's in his 60s, but Mike is one of the nicest guys I've ever talked to in my life. And so he's like Mike. Somebody he's so likable that you want.
If you don't like Mike Winger, I don't know if
you hate Santa Claus and Jesus.
Yeah,
if you don't like
what do you punch babies? What's going on here?
Right.
Yeah, like he looks like he's like, I've told him this, he's like a Disney prince.
And I like
if a Disney prince became a theologian.
And I like the way that he makes all of this stuff very accessible. He's kind of got that William Lane Craig ability to take stuff like Craig does with the philosophy, he can do with theological issues, and he can make it accessible to the widest number of people, which is probably why he has a gazillion subscribers. But he's really good at that, and he introduces people. He turns lay people into interested lay people, and he takes interested lay people and makes them knowledgeable about everything.
This is interesting. This is interesting. I want to say something about this. Pine Creek destroys Winger on the regular. You know what's interesting, and maybe it just is one of those things where it's like depends on what side of the, what side of the aisle you're on. But sometimes when Pine Creek posts like little short videos where it's just him putting people's words against themselves or whatever, it looks really good for the Christian. And I'm like, why did he put that out there? One of the first times he did that I remember, he put a place where Mike Winger like got really passionate and really sincere. and just told Pine Creek how he felt about something. And I think Pine Creek thought it looked like Mike was self-destructing, but it was like the most earnest, like anyone who watches that, it's like, right on, brother.
Pine Creek destroys Winger. That's like
Pine Creek destroys Pine Creek.
Braxton Hunter destroys every YouTube atheist every week. It's unbelievable they still turn on a camera because they're so ridiculous after Braxton's done with it. That's what that is.
I would never say
that's what that is. That's all that is. Except I'm telling the truth.
Okay. But the bottom line is, no, Pine Creek does not destroy. And it's been really fun when Mike was on those channels, because he just he did a good job. He's just really straightforward. I think even his enemies have to admit he looks like he seems to be being sincere. Now I want to show you something here. Praise Jesus has become a new channel member.
Woohoo! Thank you. Praise Jesus. Praise Jesus.
Praise Jesus. Now, here's the thing, Praise Jesus. I want to say,
hey man, flexing the guns.
If anybody doesn't know,
look at that.
Here's the party line on channel memberships. We love it when you become channel members. But if you want all the free stuff, and you really want to support us in a big way financially, first of all, we don't expect that, and we're blown away when people do that. I keep looking toward the screen as if that's where you are, but you're out there. Yeah. And I want you to know that we appreciate that, but we would like to direct you toward patreon.com/TrinityRadio to like be a serious giver. The reason to become a channel member, other than to show us that, hey, I'm behind you here, is that you get the cool little Trinity Radio badge that's green that will change colors the longer you're a member, and you'll get the little emojis. But that's all you get.
Let me tell you why I'm excited about Praise Jesus, because he's flexing the guns, and I'm all about people who are interested in fitness and wellness. So that's cool.
And that looks like a pretty impressive gun there, doesn't it? Yeah. All right. So let's.
No, I'm just kidding.
So Mike Winger, we got Mike Winger. I know we got.
Show us yours, man.
No. I better not say that. Okay. Did someone say something else?
Pinecone has had me blocked for a year. Pine.
Oh, that's an inside channel joke. All right, so
I love it.
let's go to the next thing. Now, I think people might be surprised because this is a lesser known channel. But before we get to the specifically apologetics, and by the way, we're seeing a bridging of the divide. So Steve Gregg is mostly Bible and theology, but he has some apologetics. Mike Winger is mostly theology and Bible, but has some apologetics. And before we completely leave the Bible and theology segment, let's say that the Gospel Truth channel is great, especially as a channel that's got fewer subscribers currently. I think there's Leighton Flowers, by the way. He's a Trinity professor on the right there.
And the host of the Trinity Commission sister podcast, the Soteriology 101 program.
So this is pretty cool.
Hey, there's a Trinity
I didn't even plan this. Yeah. I didn't even plan this, but look, you had Leighton Flowers on the last one, who is a Trinity professor, and on the left here you've got David Paulman, who is a Trinity student.
Oh, and branded a heretic by Sonny Hernandez, who I debated. He put a big thing on it. Yeah,
everybody's a heretic,
right? I mean, who cares? What
so,
just saying.
So this is
welcome to
cool.
The club, brother. We got jackets.
So anyway, the thing I like about this channel is they do the debates, kind of like modern day debates or something, except that it's mostly theological debates. Now, there are some debates with atheists on there, but it's mostly theological debates. So if you're trying, and everybody knows, I've said this a lot, I think that to learn fast, I think debates are a good way to learn fast, because you hear what the Christian says, and in this case, you hear what the person with your theological perspective says. Then you get to hear what the other guy says, and it goes back and forth, and you get both sides in a relatively short period of time. So I think this is a good channel for that. By the way, another channel member, right. JS. Glad you're here, JS. Thank you so much. And I have to say, in that profile picture, the posture is fantastic.
Well, it's always, everyone's got better posture than yours, but I'm not seeing the guns on this one.
Yeah, okay. All right, so thank you so much, JS. Appreciate that so so-much. Oh, look at this, a super chat from Leah Bryant. Are Mormons Christians? Why or why not? So Mormons will often say they are Christians, but here's where we just need to put the terminology aside for a second. Mormons use the same lexicon that evangelical Christians or Catholics or classical Orthodox Christians use. They have all the same terminology. But the thing is, in every single case, the term for them means something different than what it means in classical Orthodox Christianity.
For the Mormons who understand anything about their own doctrine, which they keep well hidden in a lot of cases. So let me answer this question real quick. The answer is, are Mormons Christians? I think it's possible that some Mormons who don't know doctrine any better than certain Southern Baptists know Orthodox doctrine, or a Methodist or whoever. So there might be.
So they happen to be in the Mormon church,
right? But they could it be possible that there are Mormons who are saved? Absolutely. But is the denomination,
but not believe in their doctrinal stuff,
right? Or even know anything about it? Because trust me, I've talked to those Mormons too. They're not all the missionaries who know everything and know how to answer everything. Some people just go to the Mormon church because their parents brought them or whatever, and then they have Christian friends in other denominations that get saved at a Bible camp, and then they go back to their Mormon church, and it's not until decades later they figure out all what's going on. It's like, wait a minute, so is it possible that there are some Mormons, a few Mormons maybe perhaps, that are saved? Okay, yeah. Is Mormonism Christian? Absolutely not. And if any Mormon consciously affirms like the whole spectrum of their doctrine, yeah, sorry, that's not Christian at all, and they are not saved. I'm just here to tell the truth, and I don't believe that consciously affirming Mormon doctrine and rejecting Orthodox Christianity, is that person Christian? No, not. They're a Mormon, but
yeah, part of the reason is they are not worshiping the same God. They might say that they are, because they're worshiping perhaps the God of Abraham. But here's the thing. They describe God. This is the same thing with Islam. They describe God so dramatically differently, and Jesus. Here's the rule of thumb. Now, by the way, we have a video on Mormonism. So really, for a lengthier answer and the specifics, I've got a PowerPoint on there. I go through all the things about Mormonism, all the different doctrinal issues that make them different in a heretical and dangerous way. However, just for the purpose here, here's a rule of thumb to go by. If someone is wrong about, when it comes to salvation issues, when it comes to the gospel, if someone's wrong about Jesus, it doesn't matter what they're right about.
Yeah.
Now that's not to say, oh, they're not racist. They're right about that, and that matters. Of course that matters. But when it comes to the gospel and salvation issues, if you're wrong about Jesus, it doesn't matter what you're right about.
Chris's comment is hilarious, and I feel the same way.
Chris is a channel member.
Yeah. I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. I'm like, my countenance falls every time I look at the super long ones. Dan, I guess. David DeSilva recommendation, absolutely. And if you can find any video he's on YouTube, everything David DeSilva is worth watching.
Here's an important thing to say about that. So, there, by and large, when you're listening to worldview discussions on the internet, the Christians and the atheists are completely unaware of the socio-historical context of the New Testament. Mm-hmm. And so when they approach this thing, they get it all mixed up. They miss certain terms. For instance, and we've talked about this before on the show, Pritchett, and this is Pritchett introduced me to DeSilva, but this is what DeSilva does. So let's take Paul in Romans 1, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Okay, now, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Okay, that's straightforward, right? And if you took the straightforward interpretation of that, you're fine. It's not false, you're right. But there's more to that than what it sounds like, because and Pritchett, maybe you should talk about this. Why is that shame language so important?
I like to see you.
You like to know that you taught me.
You've learned, yes.
Yeah, so
I'll clean up any mess afterwards.
Yeah, okay. So we're familiar with honor and shame societies even today. Some Asian countries are still somewhat honor shame based. And so the first century Palestinian world was like that. Yeah. And so you had these in groups and out groups, and you had your little group, your social group, and the group that you have your kinship with. And that would be like for the Jews, and maybe even a particular sect of Judaism within Judaism, but generally speaking, Jews. Then you had these Gentile groups, and like you had various groups there. But if you let's say you believed something and were outspoken about it, that was different from the way that Yahweh and his work had been understood, and the way that everybody, and including the religious leaders of the day, believed, then you would be shamed by your group. And that would be like one of the worst imaginable things, worse than death, perhaps. And that's not a simple point. That's not a point that should be dismissed. That's a very important point, that would be worse for you, perhaps, than death. Perhaps worse than hell, at least in your mind, right? I understand that there's progressive revelation about hell, but I mention this precisely because when you talk about hell, it's important you understand there's honor shame language there too. So bottom line is, if you were shamed in the eyes of the Jews, you didn't have a home anymore. Those people that considered you their kin, they might not consider you their kin anymore. Yeah. So now you're on the outs with them. You're not in the in group anymore. You're in the out group. Okay, well, maybe I can go to the Gentiles. Okay, but when you go to the Gentiles, if you're a Christian in the first century, you sound to them like the Jews. So now you're on an out group. You're not in the in group with the Gentiles either. You're on the out group with them. You're shamed in the eyes of both the Jews and the Gentiles. Yep. Nobody respects you. You feel like you're worse than pond scum. And so Paul, in an act of absolute encouragement,
in a letter
declares,
to Rome,
I'm not ashamed. Therefore, you shouldn't be ashamed, because the God of all creation is your in group. That's right. What's going on there. When you understand this properly, and you go over to Ephesians chapter 1, what you begin to see, and here's where I might fracture my audience, and I don't intend for that to happen, but where my Calvinist brothers and sisters, who I love and who are my friends, and who I'm glad you're watching this channel, and we're on the same team, basically, and don't get upset and leave, but they would see individual election in Ephesians chapter 1, when you're talking about election. We would see corporate election there. The in-group is the body of Christ. Mm-hmm. You were chosen in Christ. Yeah. You are not chosen individually to be in Christ. You plural are chosen in Christ. And so the in-group there is Christ. That's what Paul's talking about. That's why later Peter will say, you are a people, you are a nation, you are a priesthood. It's a group of people, a corporate body. And you don't have to be ashamed, even though the world will shame you. If you're in the in-group of the body of Christ, that's what matters most.
Yeah. And it's also worth pointing out that the ancient Mediterranean world was a collectivist culture too, so it was always primarily understanding identity in terms of the group first, and then your self-identity is how you're esteemed by the group and dyadic personality, but that's a whole other thing. Where are we at? Next guy. Who's our next?
Super Wood Putty gives us $6 and says, hey guys, is there a place where I can listen to your back catalog of podcasts? The YouTube channel only goes back to season 7. Unfortunately, the answer to that is likely no. Now,
wait, really?
Yeah.
What happened to
No, that's not true. Well, okay, so if you go to trinityradio.org and then go to the Trinity Radio page, whatever is there, that's it. Now there's a few things that are on the YouTube channel that are more recent, that are not on the podcast. And there's a few things on the podcast way back that are not on the YouTube. Oh, a lot that's not on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so go to
But that's basically all you get.
Yeah, the back catalog is at braxtonhunter.com/something, right?
Do what?
All the stuff from before season 7 is on the braxtonhunter.com.
At some point, they stop being named by seasons when you go back that far.
Yeah, we just made that stuff up anyway.
And it doesn't. It just. There's some on there from before I met Pritchett.
Yeah, here's the thing.
If you want to know the first ever episode where Pritchett was with me on Trinity Radio, it's do you remember what it was?
Yeah, I interviewed you on Core Facts.
Yeah, the book Core Facts. So
yeah, and the thing about the seasons was we kept calling them seasons for how many times we'd start and stop and be just tracking our inconsistencies with podcasting over the years until season 7, and then when we
started on YouTube, we got consistent.
Right, but yes, you go to braxtonhunter.com. And you can find podcasts as a menu item, I think, or something. And you can go
Trinity Radio,
and click on that and go check them out. There's a lot of good stuff back.
And I don't. In
fact, Pritchett Prime originated on the old podcast. On the audio
I can't remember if iTunes has everything, but it does on as far back as we have. Is on YouTube or on trinityradio.org. All right, let's keep moving now. So we've talked about the gospel truth. All right, what do you think is going to come next? Well, you might not be surprised to see that it's capturing Christianity. What other? I mean, this
seriously, the guy has the absolute best hair on YouTube. Period.
And this is an achievement.
How could he not make the list?
This is an achievement that you've got William Lane Craig and Graham Oppie on a live stream. Look at that, Jonathan. Who else does he have? You know you're dealing with an exquisite YouTube purveyor of theology if Dr. Jonathan Pritchett is there.
Hey, look, it's the Planet Fitness tan.
Yeah.
I no longer have. I quit the gym.
Also, Cameron has also done his own debates.
Yeah.
This is one of them right here with Cosmic Skeptic.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. But anyway, that's a good channel because, first of all, I really appreciate Cameron because in the world outside of YouTube, I know a lot of the people that do the conferences and things like that. I had wanted, when I was young in apologetics, I had wanted to be able to meet William Lane Craig, Michael Icona, Gary Habermas, Sean McDowell, Mary Jo Sharp. I wanted to, what? Why'd you laugh that I wanted to meet Mary Jo Sharp?
Grandma destroyed WLC. Just
Maxwell Yates is here.
Obliterated him, yes. William Lane Craig went and crawled in a hole afterwards is what I heard.
I'll be taking over the Unapologetics show this. Well, cool. Well, let's wait and see that.
Yeah.
But by the way, he asked me for a goofy picture of you, so we'll see what that turns into.
That's fine.
But listen, Cameron. So I did all that. I met all those people. I spoke at the conferences with those people. I did all that. That's not me bragging. That was partly because of Michael Icona and Leighton Flowers, and how God used them in my life. But in the YouTube world, it was Cameron. Cameron reached out to me about this time last year. We became friends real quick, and he helped me. He talked me through a lot of the stuff I didn't understand about YouTube, introduced me to people, and really just has been an angel in terms of this channel moving forward. And so really appreciate Cameron, but that alone wouldn't make me spotlight him on this. What the reason I'm spotlighting him is because his channel has just quickly become the go-to channel for these kind of things, for these scholarly academic debates. And just yesterday, he had Josh Rasmussen on, and there's Josh's book. Grab that book for me, that white book. This is Josh Rasmussen's book, and it is God, How Reason Can Lead to God. And Josh Rasmussen is actually presented a new argument that had never been presented before on Cameron's channel. So talk about cutting edge. That's cutting edge. And so we appreciate that. Let's see. Cameron is super brilliant. We're blessed to have him and you guys. Well, I appreciate that, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you so much. And thank you for that super chat.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. We are blown away.
Yeah, we are even more blessed
by your generosity.
Yeah, by that than anything Cameron's ever. No, I'm just kidding.
we are impressed with this.
Yes. Thank you
so
so
much,
awesome.
Andrew. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, so that's Capturing Christianity.
What know about
the next thing you should know about is reasonable faith. I know you already know about reasonable faith.
No, not everybody.
But what you might so this is William Lane Craig on the right. You know William Lane Craig, most of you. Hold on a second.
You say most of you as if everyone who's going to watch this has ever heard. Like, what if my mother decides this is the episode?
She knows William Lane Craig.
No, she doesn't.
Well, that's a travesty. Tatiana says, what did you think of his new argument? I think she means Rasmussen's new argument. It was a modal cosmological argument. I thought, obviously I agree. I was looking at it more closely today because there's a step, I think it's step number 4 or something, where it relies on some reasoning that is at home oftentimes with ontological arguments. But, I agreed with it. The question I would have is, I thought it was really cool because he did an episode on Capturing Christianity. It was Josh Rasmussen and we'll just say Theoretical Bullcrap. That's not what his channel name is, but they did a discussion on whether or not the contingency argument is persuasive. So obviously the contingency argument is valid, and I think it's sound. But is it persuasive? Like, even if it gets you to the truth, is it persuasive? And that was an interesting part of the discussion. Rasmussen even said at one point, I actually presented this argument at one time, and someone said, if I'm going to be reasonable, I have to accept this, that there's a God, but I'm not ready to do that yet. So the person was basically admitting, I'm going to irrationally reject the conclusion, even though I know the argument works. So the question is it persuasive?
You can have counter evidence or counter reasons that are I don't think there are any, but you could have that.
Yeah, so this is kind of where I'm at with this argument. It's kind of how I feel about presuppositional approaches. I think they're right. Like, I think the presuppositionalist is right with what he's saying, particularly with the tag argument. And I think that argument that Rasmussen gives is right. But as a person interested primarily in evangelism and reaching people for the Lord Jesus Christ, is it going to be as immediately understandable and compelling as I think, say, a good design argument, a moral argument, or say the Kalam? Now that
it's like Flanagan said that his modal ontological argument is like the best argument in the world. He'd never use it.
He's like, oh, I would never use this to try and convince anyone.
Right. So I agree with you.
But I'll tell you this. I'm making it a point to understand that Rasmussen's contingency argument with all the clarity that I can get, because that's becoming an area of study for me, that and a certain design argument. So, but I liked it. The bottom line is I liked it, and I think it works.
Somebody, I think it was a guy named Daniel, I can't remember, but he did ask a question about, see, this is what I do when you're talking, I read. He asked a question about slavery in the Bible and something about what Scholar Fiction said. We actually have done 3 shows on that issue, and we point to other resources from there. So go into our back catalog. You can find 2 or 3, I think.
If you just type in Trinity Radio slavery.
Right, yeah, we've got some stuff on that.
We get made fun of a lot of times for those episodes, but
I get made fun of for all kinds of things.
Here's a phrase I learned from Jonathan Pritchett that I think is fabulous. Your incredulity, it does not an argument make. Yeah. Like, deal with what we actually say. Right. All right. Mask of Shy, thank you so much for this super chat. Yeah. Says you're always, you're awesome, guys.
Look at the profile pic. That's cool.
What is it? Did he draw that? What is?
I don't know what it is, but I like it.
I like it too. You're awesome, guys. We should pray for each other, but Catholics think we can ask those alive in heaven to pray for us. Do early Christians believe that?
Early Christians are all over the place.
Yeah, early Christianity was not monolithic. Now, I will say that when I have considered Catholicism, and I know I've got Catholic listeners here for you,
Paul
Catholic,
talked about baptizing the dead. Let's not forget that. So
you Catholic listeners, just understand this is not a Catholic show, so expect us to say things occasionally that are not Catholic. Here's the thing. No, you're going to agree with me on this.
I agree with you on everything.
The thing about it is, when I used to have I still do have a problem with the idea of praying to the saints. But I understand that the answer given by Catholics is often, look, here's all we're saying. Do you ever ask other living Christians to pray for you? Yeah. Okay. And Christians don't really die in any ultimate sense, right? We go on living everlastingly, right? Okay. So then what's the problem with asking another Christian to pray for you who's already dead? Is there a problem with that? Okay.
Chris Day would say yes, because they're not conscious.
Yeah. I get the logic of that. And so logically speaking, I don't have a problem with it. But I think there are other problems there. We do a show on that too. So I would encourage you to go check that out. But as for what the early Christians believe, they were all over the place, not monolithic. All right. Let's do another one. So, but we didn't finish with Reasonable Faith. So Reasonable Faith has the podcast, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't always listen to the Reasonable Faith podcast.
I like Kevin. Kevin's a cool guy, though.
Oh yeah, Kevin is awesome. Kevin has reached out to us before, and now that's not to say you shouldn't listen all the time to the Reasonable Faith. I think you can learn from it. But here's what I want you to really notice here. You need to be a subscriber to the Reasonable Faith YouTube channel, because Gregg has this, I think it looks like this right now because of quarantine, but he does a weekly Sunday school class. He does a Sunday school class. The Defenders class, and it's basically a systematic theology. Right now, Dr. Gregg is writing a systematic theology, but
good for him.
But he does this systematic theology for his Sunday school class, and you can get he's gone through the cycle like 3 or 4 times, and you can learn a lot from that.
Were you supposed to say that? Because I don't think anyone's heard that he's writing a systematic theology book.
Yeah, he said that.
Oh, he has said that?
Yeah, he has said that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
because I knew that Adam Harwood was going to write one long before he ever announced it, and I was told to not say anything until he. Well, see, you pay more.
He's been open about it. But here now we have also the debate.
Well, that's 2 systematic theology textbooks that'll be coming out in the next 4 or 5 years, maybe.
That make my mouth water.
Yes, Adam Harwood and William Lane Craig both doing systematic theology, and I wonder what the page count's going to be.
And those should be different enough.
Yeah.
That they'll both be necessary.
Right. Yeah. Are you looking at your watch?
Yeah, well, because I just got a message from building management that at 2:15 a fire alarm went off here, but it was just dust. So I wasn't aware of it.
So we could have just burned down the entire right. Great.
Okay. Yeah. So here's the Carol Craig debate. Tommy S says Carol versus Craig still the best debate ever. Yeah. Cameron on Capturing Christianity just recently had 2 or 3 other philosophers, or maybe a couple of philosophers and a physicist or something, I don't know, on to discuss this. So before
this is what I like about that debate, though. Other than it being at New Orleans, I like that. But New Orleans Baptist.
Yeah, I've given a presentation on that stage.
But the thing I like about this debate was the closest I've ever seen for William Lane Craig. I mean, in 90% of his debates, nobody comes close. And then that guy, Sean Carroll, came close, and Austin Dacey came close. But those are like the only 2 debates I've ever, like, when you get rid of, okay, so sometimes you're in this thing, you just want to root for your guy. You're rooting for your team. But sometimes you just want to watch a good show, And I really enjoyed, because I do like a challenge. So I like it when people can actually rise to the challenge. And Austin Dacey, that was his name, right? And then Sean Carroll, those were 2 good
Austin
debates.
Dacey. He had 2 debates with Austin Dacey.
Just the first one. The second one, he wiped the floor with him. But the first one was close, and that Sean Carroll one was pretty neck and neck. And so back to, William Lane Craig stands for truth. But as far as just the experience of watching it, those were my 2 favorite because they were so close. And I don't mind a challenge if it's going to be a challenge that somebody makes me think harder. That's always a good thing, whether you're a Christian or an atheist. If you're an atheist and no Christian has ever given you pause about anything, you're just an idiot. You're not a real thinker. And likewise, Christian, I mean...
There's a T-shirt.
Yeah. And as a Christian, I still don't mind my belief. I believe that because I have the truth that it can withstand a challenge. But it's at the point now where, I mean... atheism is basically YouTube drivel, bumper stickerism, and just gibberish and nonsense. So I do like a good challenge because I'm interested in truth. And while I think I have the truth, my truth can be tested. So I do like the challenge and the learning experience. And I do like to show that Christianity can stand against the best challenges. And William Lane Craig's debate with Dacey and with Carroll is good examples from that. So.
MJ, thank you so much again. You are another one of the channel angels. You have been so good to us. And we're glad to feature you in this list today. Everyone go check out Matt Jackson's channel.
Apologetics Institute. And check me out. I'll be on it in a couple weeks, I think. We're going to be talking about apologetic methodology and some other stuff, too.
You are so good to us, Matt. Yeah. We so appreciate it.
And check out our episode that he was on about in the middle of quarantine.
Yeah.
Where it was Braxton and him talking, me sitting on the floor. That was horrible. Watch it. Fantastic stuff. Oh, and real quick.
Yes.
Real quick. MJ Jackson and Adam Coleman from True ID, who I support on Patreon. And if MJ Jackson had a Patreon, I'd give him money. At least give him back his money that he gives us, if nothing else. But him and Adam Coleman and some go ahead and type it in, MJ. They did a response to Nefinetti. They did a response to, and 2 other folks, and I'm sorry, fellas, your names are escaping me, and I feel horrible about that. But anyway, they did a response to James White here recently that is phenomenal.
Who did?
MJ Jackson, Nefinetti, Adam Coleman, and 2 other guys.
Really?
Yeah, they did a response to James White's Dividing Line podcast where he was trying to defend himself on some issues about
the protests and stuff.
That and Confederate stuff and whatever. Anyway, they offered a very respectful, very measured, and very interesting response. So go check that out. Put a thing in there, MJ, so they go check that out.
All right, yeah, I want to check that out now. All right, okay, here we go. Zamaquaki Cyril McHighs E. I guess. I'm sorry. I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna call you Zam. Sorry, Zam. But thank you so much for the super chat. That means so much. He says, I hope to work with or for y'all in the future in
amen.
RSA. In USA, maybe? RSA? I don't know. Well, praise the Lord. Thank you so much for that super chat. Means the world. Thank you
The
so
fact that anyone
so
wants to
much.
work with us.
Yeah. All right.
You don't want to work for Braxton, though. He's a terrible boss.
So, but the other thing about Reasonable Faith is the debates, right? You get to watch the debates.
Yeah.
So, but the podcast is good too. All right. Now, here we go. This is not the last one, but it's the second to last one. And it is, what do you meme? Now, why what do you meme? Why should this be a regular part of your diet? The reason it should be a regular part of your diet is because everything else we've been talking about has been real heady stuff. And frankly, his stuff is heady stuff. But his videos are shorter than the rest. So he'll usually have like he's had like 20-minute videos, but usually it's like 8 minutes.
8 to 11 minutes. And to all my fellow YouTubers out there, I mean, this is going to make me sound like a jerk, but one of the reasons why I watch John McCrae's YouTube channel more than most people that I love dearly is because they're short and I can just get it on my commute home because I can get it in there. It goes back to the comment earlier about Leighton Flowers, where you look at, he's got an upload, but it's 4 hours and 20 minutes, and there's Leighton and 6 people you never heard of in Kevlar, Kevin, and you're like, oh, okay, well I'll catch the next one. So, yeah, I watch his interestingly. Plus, I find him hilarious. So, and that helps because
easy example of you're not going to be listened to if you're not enjoyable to listen to.
Right.
All right, now,
and I listen to him, and I don't listen to people that I,
But RSA equals South Africa. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
we'd like to go to South Africa.
Absolutely.
But here's the reason. Here's the noble reason, besides just entertainment value, that I really think that John McCrae adds value, and that is his stuff is really shareable. So if you're trying to reach a particular person who doesn't believe, if you want to get your kids interested in thinking about theology and apologetics, this is a good way to do it. Just share these videos. It's great.
If you want one,
my kids go around the house going, "What do you mean?"
Yeah. Oh, Noah is just all about what do you mean? But that's my son. He's not even in the chat today. Weird. Okay, usually he's in there. But one of if you've never watched his videos, the one you need to go find is where he is where he's responding to Rationality Rules, and he responds to Rationality Rules using Rationality Rules' own card game that he made, and it is I mean, I just laughed for 11 minutes straight. It was just a straight clowning of that guy, and it was great.
Yeah, this might be something that we could say on our channel, because we're somewhat disconnected. We need to pray for his brother to get saved. There's a great episode where he had his brother sit down, and he looks enough like him that it's like, and he starts saying something like, "I'm an atheist now," blah blah blah, and it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But it was his brother and not John. So that was interesting. All right. Last thing that I want to spotlight is actually not a channel. So the two things that are not channels are Steve Gregg, although Steve Gregg has a channel, but really don't forget to go get that verse by verse Bible study.
Narrow Path.
Also, I should have said we do. Yeah. thenarrowpath.com, I think is, but also remember, we have on our channel, and if you want it on audio, it's on trinityradio.org/verse by verse. There's a tab there if you go to trinityradio.org. Almost the entire book of Genesis, and Jonathan has several episodes on 1 Peter that are verse by verse, just like that. So we got that stuff too. All right, but this is the other thing that's not a channel, and that is Apologetics 3:15. Apologetics 3:15. Now, the thing I love about Apologetics 3:15 is they do book reviews. You see Terminology Tuesday. They give you terms. They spotlight some videos from the week, from stuff. Oh, look, there's Braxton Hunter. Now, let me pause this for a second because Jonathan Pritchett's on there too, but let me pause this for a second. The thing that's awesome to me about this, all right, now this is some of you all are there right now where you've just gotten into apologetics. You have your favorite channels, you have your favorite books or podcasts. Here's the thing. when I was at that stage, Apologetics 315 was my go-to place. I went there at least twice a day, every day. And the reason was because it was the place that pulled together all of the best apologetics content on the internet to one place. And it was run by a guy named Brian Otten. Now, Brian Otten has recently, or I guess last year sometime, he doesn't run it anymore. Now Kurt Jarris runs it. He's the guy that you see at the top of the screen right there that's covered up by the play button. Yeah. And he's a friend. And so he runs it now. But here's the great thing. It's still got links to a lot of great debates and things, great MP3 resource. It's got a reading list. I should have shown it here, of books. So if you're just a beginner all the way up to expert and in various areas, they've got it broken down for you what you need to read, and they update that, I think, still. And they also, let's let it play on a little bit here. So I always wanted to be on this left-hand side column. I thought that'd be like winning a Grammy or an Oscar for an apologist, is to end up on the left side here. And now I'm on the left side here, and so is Jonathan Pritchett Prime. So
we can retire now.
We can retire. We've done it all. Yeah. We've done it all. But you see they've got all kinds of book recommendations, everything.
And Kurt Jarris is the right guy. I mean, I just love Kurt. He's a great guy.
Yep. And as you go down here, you see where it says weekly bonus links. Now, you see how those are marked out? That's because those prices aren't true anymore. But like if, say, N.T. Wright's Paul, book on Paul, that probably costs $70.
The N.T. Wright book on, okay, which one?
Okay, the more scholarly one.
Paul okay, which one?
Paul and the
Faithfulness of God. What about Paul and his recent interpreters? What about Paul, a biography?
If one of those was, say, $70, and it suddenly went on
Paul
sale
Fresh
for
perspective. I mean, he's got so many books.
Okay. But if it went on sale for like 99 cents for
it'll be
Kindle,
up there.
It'll be on here,
yes.
And you'll miss it if you're not following Apologetics 315. And then of course it scrolls down. And back in the day, like you would see like Douglas Gruthaus and see there's Swami Das's new book. There's a review of it. Some of you know about that. But back in the day, you'd have some of the major apologists like Gary Habermas and others commenting in the comments on this stuff. So that's a site that I think you should avail yourself of. So that's the list. So I'm going to put the links and stuff there later, but just to run back down it again, Steve Gregg, Mike Winger, Gospel Truth, Capturing Christianity, Reasonable Faith, What Do You Mean, and Apologetics 315. Of course, we want you to check out the channels the people that run those channels showed up here today. We also want you to continue to appreciate Trinity Radio. But now at this point, since this is kind of a lazy Friday afternoon, let's just stick around and answer some questions, Pritchett. Was there anything we didn't get to that you thought we should have gotten to?
Somebody mentioned, are they talking about Logos?
I don't know.
We use it, but we're still on 7. Here's the thing. Buy whatever version.
While he's going off about Logos Bible software, if you want to ask us anything about anything. David Wood, I should have mentioned if you're interested in apologetics toward Islam, then that's your guy.
Well, if we're going to, David Wood, if you like theology, Bible Bro Down was part of the Trinity Commission, Soteriology 101, go check that. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Somebody had mentioned that we use that. Here's the thing about getting that Logos Bible software. If you don't own it yet, wait until you hear. I think they're on 8 now. Wait until you hear version 9 announced, and then version 8 is going to be like dirt cheap until version 9 drops. So they always had, because that's when I think started using it around version 7. So always wait until the next version and be a version behind, and that way you always get them real cheap. And trust me, you think, but this new version has this, that, and don't worry about it. There's depending on the package you get, there's so much that you never get through it all anyway. But it's awesome software.
Black Tuesday Film says favorite Old Testament scholars and books on the reliability of the Old Testament other than Kitchens. So when I was working through my Genesis, commentary kind of thing, I was using that Word Bible commentary. Is that it? Mm-hmm. That Word Bible commentary. And what was the name of the scholar that did Genesis? I can't remember the name of the guy.
Victor Hamilton, maybe?
No. It starts with a G.
Matthews?
Everyone should know. Everyone will know once we say it. But anyway, I really appreciated him. I had several commentary sets.
I can.
You'll think of it maybe before we're done.
I don't even.
So we've got kitchens around here, and did he not teach a class at one point for Trinity?
Yeah,
I thought so.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Anybody else you want to mention? I mean, there's always the.
I mean, I like Walton.
Walton and Heiser, yeah,
cool.
they're popular.
I like Victor Matthews. I like Douglas Stewart. I like Tremper Longman. Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
man, I think that dude is just straight garbage. This Michael Jones guy, just straight garbage. Horrible. I'm teasing. I love the guy.
Michael Jones.
Channel.
We love
He's
Michael.
phenomenal, and you can catch us on his show. Or catch him on our show a few months back. Have we been on his show, or is he on ours? He was on ours.
He's not. We've not been on his show, but
he was on ours.
Okay. I've asked him to debate on our channel before, so maybe someone can go pressure him.
Anyway,
it's not that he was opposed to it. He just had other things going.
I'm a big fan, and I like the stuff he puts out. I like the fact that he puts out stuff that gets people talking, gets people thinking. So, yeah. Chris Harris, I'm sure 8's better. I haven't even exhausted version 7 yet. So, but I tell you why I wanted Logos, because the software has the great books of the Western world available for it, where the Syntopicon, which is the first 2 volumes of the great books, it was actually volumes 2 and 3 in the first edition that I have on my shelf, but in the second edition that came out in the early 90s, I think, the first 2 volumes are. So the great books of the Western world is like authors everywhere from like Homer all the way through to Freud and beyond. Like what they call the Western canon of great literature. And the Syntopicon will categorize all of those authors' thoughts on all of the 102 big ideas that they cataloged that run throughout the thing. And you can click on, like, so say the topic is angels, and have like a bunch of subtopics, and then those will even be broken down. And so if you want to know what anyone in the great books ever said on those subjects, they have it all clickable. And then they also have the Harvard Classics and the Harvard Classics Shelf of Fiction, which that, to be honest with you, is the number one reason why I go to Logos over and over again, and then the Bible stuff secondary to that. So if you get a Logos package, get the great books of the Western world, and if you
can you grab the top book off of the book tower right there?
Harvard Classics.
Off of this, the top book. So Virginia asks about Islam critiqued. I guess she's asking. This is the book that we would recommend for that as an introductory thing. And I think even I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. I think even David Wood says this is good. This is Abdul Salib and Norman Geisler.
I think this is required reading at Trinity too.
Yeah, we require that.
Our classes.
Yep, in the major world religions class maybe. And it's really good. What it does is so there are different groups within Islam, just like there are within Christianity. Well, you hear sometimes us refer to mere Christianity, like the classical Orthodox Christian message. Well, in that book, what they respond to is mere Islam, so that it's a good basic, straightforward apologetic against Islam. So I would recommend that.
Best resources for learning Hebrew. There was a question I saw. The Basics of Biblical Hebrew, Zondervan textbook. Several contributors to that. It's the Old Testament, similar to Mounce's Zondervan's book, Basics of New Testament Greek. Start there. They've got the flashcard set with the laminate sheet that's got for quick reference and flashcards. That's the best package I've seen. I'm sure somebody has something they like better than that, but that's the one I recommend.
Ramon the Large says, what was your guys' opinion on the Eric Hernandez versus scholar fiction debate? It was very telling, if you ask me.
I couldn't care less about that debate because I'm never going to watch it, but I did get suckered into watching his response, which was the best thing on any YouTube apologist has ever put out on the internet, ever, even better than What Do You Mean? It is the best 30-minute response video or debate review video I've ever seen in my life. It was hilarious from start to finish.
Yeah.
It didn't make me want to actually watch the debate because I figured there's no point.
The debate's enjoyable.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna take up for Skylar here. Skylar said he was sick and irritable when he did that debate, and so he admits it's not his best showing because he was sick and irritated. But all that said, Hernandez is
one of my favorite people on the planet.
A very aggressive debater. And that's interesting. He's a very aggressive debater, but in that debate, he was very reserved. Yeah. But I thought made incredible arguments. So I'd tell you if I didn't think he did well. We say when we don't think people do well. I said that I didn't think D'Souza did that great against Dillahunty.
Skylar,
I thought he was right.
Destroyed Eric Hernandez. Got it in before the guy types it.
What, Maxwell Yates?
No, whoever that was. Was that?
Did someone say that?
No, somebody who's been saying that, Carroll destroyed William Lane Craig.
Oh, that's Maxwell Yates.
Oh.
Maxwell Yates, you better watch out or else unapologetic apologists will shut you down.
No, it wasn't. It was some other guy who was saying that.
Do you like Got Questions Ministries? Yeah.
It wasn't Yates. I know when Yates is... No, but there was another guy.
I'm answering a question here. Got Questions Ministries has some great articles. Now, we would differ on them on some secondary doctrinal issues. Mainly their Calvinism. I think they're Calvinist, but
the majority of them.
But aside from that, even in some areas that touch on that, I think it's great. I think it's a great resource, unless there's something I don't know about. Now, if they have some article that says something crazy, but I enjoy reading their stuff sometimes. So yeah, I think it's trustworthy. Loved Eric's debate review. What do you think about Mike Winger's work on the Passion Translation? What do you think of Michael Heiser? Okay, so I got this Heiser story. All right. So I was at the Unapologetics conference in what is it? Beach, famous beach in Texas, Corpus Christi. And I was also supposed to preach the day after the conference at the church, his big church. And they had two services. So I preached in the first service, and then I was to take a break while the church did their small groups in Sunday school. And then I come back and preach the second service. So this woman approaches me. I hope she sees this. And she says, "What do you think?" She said, I want to share with you something. And I don't think she articulated this well. But what she was trying to say is, look, there are many, many gods, and Yahweh is just one of many gods, and all this whole thing. Well, I was telling her, I'm thinking I've got an absolute pagan who needs Jesus here. So I'm engaging with her. I had no idea about I knew who Heiser was, but I didn't know anything about him at the time. What she was trying to articulate was his explanation about the multiplicity, about the whole thing with Elohim and the council and Psalm, what is it? Somebody can tell me, 83, I think. Ish, something like that. I don't know.
You don't have the entire Bible memorized. You don't have the whole Bible. Wow.
Yeah. And so anyway, I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I've come around on Heiser because once you understand you have to go through Heiser in stages, because when you first hear what he's saying, you think what he is saying sounds crazy, but then it's more acceptable the more you understand what he says. Now, I still have some reservations about some of it, but I'll tell you the best part of his book, The Unseen Realm, that no Christian, I don't think, should have a serious problem with, is when he goes through the Old Testament showing you examples of Christophanies where Jesus appears as the angel of the Lord. And what does it mean, the angel of the Lord? I thought that was the best part of the book. And I think that should be acceptable to Christians everywhere. So Psalm 82, I was close. I said ish, so I was close. I said Psalm 83. But thank you, Juan Venter. You deserve to be put on the screen. But now I took away the thing I had up there from somebody. What did they say? Let's see. So Heiser. Yeah, well, we answered about Heiser. Let's see. Who else do we have here? I am not a Calvinist and believe God is 100% omniscient. Me too. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Calvinists and open theists have this in common. They both think, okay, so Calvinists think that God knows the future exhaustively because he's going to determine it that way. So that's how he knows. Open theists think that the future is open and you can be free. You have libertarian freedom because God's doesn't know the future, or he doesn't know the future and doesn't determine it. But aside from those two groups, the rest of Christianity says God knows the future exhaustively and doesn't determine it. And that's where we land. All right. Let's see. What else do we have? When are you guys going to make the boomer apologetic? Hold on. You're going to make the boomer apologetics empire.
I qualify.
Let me tell you. No. Yeah, you don't want to qualify as a boomer. You're not a boomer.
Yeah, but he means old people.
No, I don't care what he means. We're not boomers. And that needs to be understood right now. I technically qualify as a millennial. So take that.
Yeah, brag about that.
Well, that's the thing about being a millennial. You can brag when it's convenient.
Yeah.
And then when it's not, you don't.
Yeah, millennials are like, what, 30s-ish now? Somebody asked, there was a question that I thought was an important one about, do we think that the Trinity is an essential part of something? Chris, go back up. I want to find that because the answer is the Trinity is an essential part. Yes, absolutely. Of course.
It's gone.
Man, whatever the question is, if essential part of God, yeah, because God is Trinity, hence the name of our show, the name of our seminary. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we believe that is an essential, core, foundational, absolute, non-negotiable doctrine.
Oh, yeah, Calvinists and open theists are opposite. You are okay. Well,
yes, but they agree.
Where they agree is, so explain why they're bedfellows. So the open theist thinks
so
that if God doesn't know the future and it's not determined, the Calvinist thinks God knows the future and it's determined. The thing that they agree about
is God knows the thing that they agree on is that the Calvinist agrees with the open theist that if God knows the future, it is determined, because the Calvinist and the open theist both affirm that if God is able to know the future, it's because he determined it.
Brando says 86 is millennial cutoff. I don't know what charts you're looking at, Brando, but there are charts out there that have 80 as the cutoff, up in the middle of 80. Okay, so
those charts, those brackets, or whatever. However
they're subjective.
Old the editor
I don't care.
was,
there is an earliest one. I mean, they're not saying people that were born in the 1960s are millennials.
Yeah.
So the earliest one that allows for millennial is the one I'm going with.
Yeah. Okay, I'm on the tail end of.
We're not even. Look, we're not boomers in denial. We're not boomers in denial. If anything, I'm Generation X, and so is he. We're not boomers.
No, I get okay boomered by boomers.
Besides,
I'm crankier than boomers.
What's
I'm
wrong with
older
boomers?
In spirit than
boomers are wonderful human beings.
Yes.
You need to listen to more boomers.
My dad was a boomer.
Right. Oh, okay. All right. Well, this has gone downhill. I don't know what else
work to do.
We have. Last questions. Have you read Swami Das' book?
No.
Heard a lot of good things. No, but I just today was listening to where William Lane Craig was on. So I did listen to Reasonable Faith because it was posted on Reasonable Faith, where he was on Swami Das's channel, and found that conversation just to be a blast. It's real interesting. I'm waiting to hear the whole thing. I haven't read the book. I do want to read the book. But I can't really comment too much on it right now.
Braxton looks about 10 years younger than Pritchett. Probably so. When I shave, I look younger. And when I have a nice haircut, I haven't had a haircut in 4 months. But when I shave, I do look a lot younger. And when I had the fake tan that I got from the tanning booth at Planet Fitness.
Let me tell you guys something. And Pritchett, you know what this is like.
Yeah.
I remember.
I don't care.
I remember when I woke up in Middle Tennessee in Murfreesboro, across from Middle Tennessee State University campus, on my 20th birthday, in an apartment I was living alone in at the time. And I realized I was no longer a teenager, and I pulled the blanket over my head, and I was like, I do not want to grow up. I don't want to not be a teenager. And then like 10 minutes later, I woke up and I was 39. And I was like, I cannot believe I'm almost 40.
Yeah.
It happened so fast. And of course, that's what old people say. But let me tell you something. It's going to happen to you real fast. And people will think you're a weird dad making weird dad jokes. And so just get ready, because it's coming for you. Time, find where this quote comes from. Time won't leave me as I am, but time can't take the boy out of this man. There's a search for you.
Okay.
All right. Anything else you want to say, Pritchett, before we go?
No.
All right.
Yes, actually, I
Okay.
always have something to say.
Of course.
Look, I want to invite everyone who is interested in any theological subject to go to TrinitySem.edu and look around. Check out our courses. You don't have to sign up for a degree program. If you just want to listen to him or I or Leighton Flowers or Steve Gregg or Dr. Elliott or Dr. Chatham or Dr. Washington or Dr. Buckwagler or any of our awesome professors prattle on about a subject you're interested in, you can audit courses at Trinity. But if you are interested in a theological education, you need to check out our degree programs and sign up and become a student at Trinity College of the Bible and Theological Seminary, the best seminary on planet Earth with the coolest faculty members that you've actually heard of. So there you go.
All right. Well, we've enjoyed being with you. More great videos next week. I may even release something over the weekend that we did on another channel. So you want to keep your eyes peeled. You never know. If you'd like to support us, you can do that at patreon.com/TrinityRadio. We really, really appreciate it. You get lots of free stuff, free courses. It's not free. I mean, you're a patron, but you get several entire courses at the seminary level with PowerPoints. You get free ebooks. You get episodes we've never released. You're going to find out where Jonathan Pritchett thinks I went too hardcore against New Testament scholar Ben Witherington III, or as I call him, BW3. Then you can get that there.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
And until next time, we'll see you later. I messed that up. It was going to be so smooth.
Are you going to stick your face in the camera like
no.
the godless guy?
I like to.
Okay, do it.
We'll see you next time on Trinity Radio. That's your favorite show so far? That was like the least we've ever tried.
That's what makes it great, though. Well, the least you ever tried. I never tried. Thanks, man.
Yep.